1964, the freedom of the borough of Swindon was granted to Royal Air Force Lyneham, and thus a transport centre which began with the steam age was linked to one representing the jet age. Roughly midway between Swindon and Chippenham, Lyneham operates three types of aircraft. The Lockheed C-130 Hercules, flown by the newly formed Tactical Wing, the familiar Comet 4, flown by 216 Squadron, which incidentally was the world's first to operate military jet transports, and finally the turboprop Britannia, which has formed the backbone of Britain's long-range transport for many years. Approaching runway 25, Lyneham's gateway to the world, this Britannia is bringing over 100 servicemen and their families from the Far East. Lyneham has all the facilities of a modern airport, including customs. Many of these passengers will be transported by Air Force coaches to Swindon railway station to journey to their final destinations. May be accommodated overnight at Lynham's own modern hotel, which has over 280 beds and specializes in the care of children. Outbound passengers are briefed in the modern departure lounge before emplaning, and seating arrangements are pre-planned to avoid an undignified scramble to the aircraft. Air quartermasters carry out similar duties to airline hostesses on passenger flights. For added safety, passenger seats on support command's aircraft are all rearward facing. An important task often undertaken by RAF Lyneham is the carrying of VIPs. Here, Britannia 404 has positioned at London Airport to fly Earl Mountbatten and Sir Solly Zuckerman to a Far Eastern Defence Conference. Crews flying VIPs are of the highest category. One is accustomed to thinking of airliners in terms of passengers, but £2 million of freight are handled at Lyneham each month. And the cargo version of the Britannia can carry spare aero engines and other heavy equipment for distances up to 4,000 miles. operations room is the controlling centre, and on a giant wall map the location of all Lynham's aircraft and crews is continually monitored, and the positions indicated by means of coloured plaques. Gan is a coral island on the Maldives group in the Indian Ocean. Here, a fully equipped airfield has been built, and the old world blends with the new in a tropical setting. Changi is the RAF main Far Eastern terminal and is on Singapore Island, and was developed from a Japanese airstrip which was painfully built during the last war by Allied prisoners of the Japanese. Lyneham is rightly proud of its unparalleled safety record, and to maintain it, rigorous crew training is essential. Much of this is carried out in flight simulators, complex dummy aeroplanes in which reactions to sudden emergencies and maneuvers can be carried out safely. Unlike airline pilots, Lyneham crews had to be prepared to fly anywhere in the world at short notice. And these flights, too, can be practiced on simulators, and the course flown recorded on a chart. Comprehensive maintenance is vital for aircraft safety, and the Britannia servicing dock is another example of the thoroughness typical of the work here. After they have flown some 2 years, the aircraft are almost completely dismantled and subjected to detailed inspection. Aircraft cleaning is another safeguard against corrosion. As a master diversion airfield, Lyneham has many visiting aircraft, and one of the most unusual in recent years was the Civil Groom and Goose amphibian. Now becoming more familiar is the VC-10 based at Brize Norton. These modern aircraft will increasingly take over the long-range passenger and trooping role from Lyneham. In these days of fast aircraft and all-weather operations, air traffic control relies heavily on radar, and equipment here is of the most modern type. These pensioners were amazed to see the standard of catering enjoyed by the station's personnel. But it is when an emergency arises that Lyneham at once moves swiftly into a predetermined role, that of swiftly deploying troops and equipment wherever required. In the event of a crisis, directives are issued from Defence Ministry in Whitehall to the command's modern headquarters at Upavon. Operational orders are then issued to Lyneham, where the normal pattern of operations has changed. All routine passenger and training flights are cancelled, and night shifts are reinforced to speed the turnaround of engine changes, etc. In the operations centre, the utilisation chart reveals the serviceability and state of each aircraft, and which ones fitted out as freighters or troop carriers. Troops assemble at air transit camp at Devizes before travelling to Lyneham to embark in Britannias. Some of their equipment is also carried in freight versions, whilst the heavier armour is loaded into the rugged and versatile Hercules. Where necessary, some of the heavy equipment is dropped by parachute to the more isolated units in Harjas. The tempo of operations continues until the last of the men and equipment has been dispatched. Meanwhile, the first of the casualties are being flown back in a Britannia, specially converted for evacuation of the wounded. And the more seriously injured are flown at once by helicopter to the nearby RAF hospital at Rawton. Lyneham is not just a passenger terminal, it is a fully operational combat force, ready at any time to transport Britain's strategic reserve anywhere in the world, and to support, save and supply whenever and wherever required.